Does golf equipment play a part when you grow up? By the end of this video, you should be able to recognize how golf equipment can impact you as an adult if you started young. Welcome back, Land Golf Academy members, and I hope you had a great Christmas with your loved ones. Today's episode is very special. I am a huge believer that everybody has a DNA swing in them from the moment they pick up the club, but if you are a junior and you picked up the club, not only are you dealing with the DNA golf swing, but you are also dealing with the possibility of using a club that is either too long or too heavy for you. And what can that do for your DNA golf swing? We're going to find out today. I came across this video that's playing right now. This gentleman who started recording in 2007 when he was a boy up until 2023. And we're going to take a look at his swing from when he first started to his very last swing and take a look at his DNA motion that is instilled in him, and also what the golf equipment that he grew up playing with led him down to a path of, I can imagine, some frustration. And thank you for the new members who joined our community. And if you're interested in doing so, the link is in the description below. You can start channel memberships at 99 cents per month, and it goes straight to our Heal the Hood donation site in Cape Flat, South Africa, to help get low-income children into golf. So let's get ready for the New Year resolutions of playing better golf by studying the cause and effect of using equipment that might not be for you. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, on the screen is our man of the hour. We're going to look at his swing from his very first swing on video that he has all the way up to the very last swing on video he has. And this is 17 years difference. And this is really cool to look at. And I wish I could have more students show me, if they started when they were younger, the very first video, so I can look at some cause and effect. So what we're going to do is we did a little quick measurement here. We're going to measure how long that club is. And if we go to the top of his swing, we can see, can we get him standing as tall as he can? You can see right about there is about as tall as he can. So we're going to go from his toes up to the tip of his head. So even if we give him a little bit more, he's probably right about here. So I'd say 25. So 19 divided by 25 is close to an 80% ratio. So his club length is 80% of his total height. The average ratio for an adult using a driver is anywhere from 65 to 70%. So we can already see there is evidence that this might be too long for him and a little too heavy. Keep in mind, throughout these videos, there is subtle shifting going on. So these lines will not be exact. Plus the camera angle is not exactly down the line, but we're going to get an idea of what we're going to look at and how this carries over into his adulthood. First things I noticed, and this is very common with junior golfers, and I teach a lot of them, that have wrong equipment. And when equipment gets long and heavy, couple things can happen. The child can learn to pick up the club to try and take control of the club, or the club takes control of the junior. And in this case, the club took control of him. So as we take that club back, we can already see a left shoulder coming up higher, and he's basically standing up to assist the weight of that club. And second thing we can see is, look at how far this club falls back, because A, it is a very long club, and B, it is very heavy for him. And some things that can start to occur is we start seeing excess tilt towards the target. So if this was a face-on view, his spine would go from here to more like that, where it breaks off, where his upper body is leaning towards the target. And we can also see how long that club is getting as a result of it being long and heavy. Second thing we're looking at is the left foot coming up. Now, it's okay. I have no problems with the left foot coming up, but this left foot coming up is a direct result of that club pulling him out of his posture. Now let's take a look on the way down. Now watch that left foot plant. So as he is turning, we can see that left foot spinning. Now he plants himself. He drops that club in the slot pretty good. But if this was down the line, you would see that that club is very steep as a result of the club working too far back, pulling his arms away from his chest. Now he is just playing catch up with his hands and arms, and they are delayed in the process. We see some spine angle loss as he is starting to turn into the target. And as he strikes that golf ball, look at that motion. So he's able to turn, very good motion here, coming through here. And we can tell that this club is heavy, because watch that follow through. As that club moves its way back, watch the right heel. The club's going to pull him back to his right side. So this is a sign that that club is very long and too heavy for him, which does affect his DNA swing, because his DNA swing is also being structured by the equipment that he is using. Let's fast forward a couple of years. Okay, we fast forward a few years. He's a little bit older, a little bit taller, a little bit stronger. Does he have those DNA motions? Do we still see the club taking over as much? I'm assuming that's the same club, but just for argument's sake, let's see see if it is. So we have an 8, and let's check that second line. Let's start a little bit higher just to give him a little bit of breathing room. And we can see he is at 8 and about 12. So he's at 66%. So yes, this club is either he's grown into it or he's been refitted. I'm assuming it's the same club that he's just grown into. So now that club is more in line with that correct ratio that it needs to be. Let's see if that club is still controlling him or if he is able to control that club. We see a similar takeaway. That left shoulder is now getting higher, so that could be instilled in his neurological system, as that club doesn't look to be overpowering him as much as it used to be. Top of the swing, we can still see those arms go very far back. This does not look like the club is moving him back. This is probably a result of him just developing and feeling that's where that club should be, based on the club pulling him back there when he was much younger and not as strong. So we see that left leg still coming up. We see the hips opening a lot. We see the left shoulder raising up. We see that arm crossing the line, getting too far back there. And then what happens? Let's look at that left foot. So the left foot plants as he turns, so we can see a little bit of spinning out going there. And then from here, he needs to get that club in the slot. However, since he lost some of his shoulder tilting, that's going to move his hands further away from his body. So you can see how much further away they get. The club falls beneath that plane. Hands are very high. And from here on out, you can see how fast that club head moves with the hands and arms. So he's getting a little dependent on his arms and hands, retiming to the center of his chest. And as he comes on through, because the toe is completely spun out, watch the balance. It's very hard to maintain balance and he falls over. So one thing I really stress with my juniors is, first, you need the correct equipment length, and secondly, you need to control that club head, because the club's not going to keep control of it. You have to control the club head, and you have to learn to be balanced throughout your motion, because if you're losing balance, you're going to lose posture. Let's fast forward about 3 or 4 more years to see what we have. Okay, it is now 4 years later, 7 years since the first year that we saw him swing. Obviously, he's much taller, much stronger. This is not a driver. It is a hybrid, and the camera angle is a little bit off, but we can kind of get to see, do we still see that left shoulder issue that we had when he was a child? So basically, if you take a look at the line, it is about 90 degrees from that spine angle line. That's where his shoulder should go to. We can see a little bit forward leaning in his posture. This must have been something that they focused on or developed into to help with that balance. But let's take a look at the top of the swing. You see that left shoulder is still leveling out at the top of his swing here. That club head still gets back. So you can see he's limiting his hip turn. So there's definitely a change occurring here. The chest turn is pretty good, but the arms are going way back. Again, as a fight for that neurological system. So he has developed that in his muscle memory. Now he comes on through. You can see that the club is fairly steep, and then he still has to try and time those hands into it. Balance is getting better. Right shoulder's getting down. So we definitely see some changes occurring. And look at that. His club is falling back into his posture. So this is better. We can still see the toes, though, are still receiving a lot of the weight, kind of like when he was first learning this club. Let's get in the DeLorean and travel a little bit further into the future. Okay, 2017 now. We've advanced a little bit. It's 10 years since that first video. Let's take a look at some basic lines. We're going to draw where the shoulders should be at the top of that swing. So the shoulders basically along that setup should be in that tilting. We're also going to draw a quick little plane line here in green just to see what's going on with that plane, and a little back brace line there. Definitely forward leaning, so he's toe based. And I'll quickly go back here. We can see that he was more level. He didn't start getting his weight towards his toes until we saw that video in 2013. At some point there must have been some effort to get the weight more on the toes, maybe to provide more room for his hands and arms to work and time as he grew stronger. But let's take a look at that takeaway. So we don't see as much hip turn. Look at those hips. Those hips are not turning at all. So there's definitely been a change with the hips. Arms do appear to be below that plane line for the first time. His shoulders are doing a little bit better. We can still see a loss of shoulder tilting, and the shoulders are getting still a little bit higher based on that neurological system. And the club now, look at the club, it's still going way back there. And clearly he's strong enough to control that club, but look at all this excess motion just with the hands and arms. Now this could have been an effort to stop the hands and arms by going too far back, by controlling the lower body. You can see the arms do stop a little bit better, but look at that club head, it's still working its way back, and that's just his feel. So it's still crossing the line. And as we go back down into it, let's see that left foot. Does it still spin with the heel? No, but the weight is still going towards the toes at this point. And when it goes towards the toes and you're trying to drop in the slot, your hand path is going to be pushed out in front of you. And as a result, your club head is going to go below that plane line. And now it's just a matter of, can you square up your hands in enough time? But let's take a look. We can see they are very flat and we're coming on through. He's holding off the release. And now we see a good shoulder tilt, comes on through. And again, club is in a better position, better posture, better balance, much better job on the way through, but we can still see this little area here is most likely because of that long club as a child, and it just built that into his neurological system. Let's get in the time machine again. Okay, now we are at 2021, some 14, 15 years since we saw that first video. We definitely still see toe base. We see a lot of that energy off the toes, and take a look at where the center based on his heels straight up to the sky. We can see very little behind that center, so we can see it's very heavy towards the front. Now this could create some issues, but what's interesting is when he takes that club back, watch what happens. He will actually sit as he takes that club back. So he does correct it and starts to get more centered, but it could also be a result of the hands starting to work more up. So you can see we started to make some changes there. Hands are going up, left shoulder's getting down, so that's very good. But again, the lack of the hip turn is not getting his arms deep enough for the turn. His arms are working straight down and still going out in front. He didn't provide himself a deep enough turn on the way back, because this is a good position, but if his hands were here and his club shaft here, now he is ready to strike that golf ball. All it took was a little bit more turn. So I think him reducing his hip turn based on trying to shorten the arms led down this path. Now this could be A, timed very well, or B, you could start to shank the golf ball or pull it hard left as a result, because that club is always going to be toe based and you can toe shank it and heel shank it depending on how close or far away you are from the golf ball. We can see here he gets down the slot pretty well, but again, those hands need to be a little bit closer to his body, and this is most likely a heel shank right by the hosel, and we see that golf ball veering off to the right. But look at the way he's staying in his posture. His shoulders are working better, his hands are finishing higher, but look at all the lean going on here. So this is a setup issue that should be addressed. Let's go to one more swing, the final swing that I want to show you in 2023, because I think he has made leaps and bounds, but it took 17 years. Okay, this is 2023. Let's do a line from the arches up, and that looks fairly close where two of them combined. So we're seeing a little bit more towards his heels, which will allow him to be more evenly balanced. If we zoom in and take a look at that heel, see how the heel's up in the air? I don't know if that's the sneakers or if that is just him still a little bit forward. So if you're watching this, maybe try and sit back in heels just a smidge to help you be a little bit more centered, so this line runs into those two. That might help you out. But let's take a look on the way back and see these changes that he's made. And there, look at that, he sits back into it. So yes, he does do a good job of staying centered. Now let's take a look. Those hands are going above the plane but not directly up. The club face is pointing fairly close to that spine angle line. Let's look at that left shoulder. Does it stay down? He does a pretty good job of keeping it down, because if you take a look here, let's draw a line in red from one shoulder to the other shoulder, and yes, it's almost perpendicular to his spine angle line, so he's doing a much better job of keeping that in relation. And as a result, look at the left arm, it gets up to that secondary plane line, and if we draw a line from the butt of the club straight down, we can see that look at that, it goes right in between those two. So now that club is gonna be in a position to drop and turn naturally. He's not gonna fight that very steep motion. Does he do it? Let's look at his feet. Are his feet changing? So the weight distribution of his feet much better. Look, he's sitting in his heels a little bit quicker. He's not spinning out, and as a result, look at that club. That club's dropping straight down right into the slot, and the club head is on plane, slightly closed, not a big deal. Drives the golf ball right down into it. Look at that right shoulder staying down in his posture, back brace lines receiving all that weight, and as he comes on through, look at that, the arm exits the right pass. So this 2023 swing is phenomenal. So congratulations on that 2023 swing. I would like to know what journey you took. I can kind of imagine what journey you took, but I guarantee you that this swing that he has in 2023, if he was using correct equipment, the right length, that is about 65% ratio to his height, and the right weighting, he might have achieved this swing in 2023, maybe in 2013, 2014, but it does play a significant role in how you develop. So if you have a grandchild, if you have a child that is playing golf, please do me a favor and get them correct equipment. There are plenty of golf equipment companies out there. Epic Golf comes to mind. They are the only club with weighted heads for juniors, and they are fantastic. Every child I put them in, I see instant results. And secondly, if you are an adult and not using correct equipment, you too can suffer from development process. So I hope that helps you. Have a great New Year's, have a safe New Year's, and for those that voted, I want to see you stay with those New Year's resolutions of practicing your short game, because short game is key for success in golf. Have a safe holiday, everybody. I'll see you next year. Fairways and greens.